When was the last time you heard the words namby-pamby? Maybe never, or it's been a really long time. I said to my guest, who says that? Who says that anymore? But it made my day, and I think it will make yours because that's the kind of chatter we had on today's episode. But here's the big thing. Besides the chatter and the fun that we had, we really pointed out some myths so we don't waste any time. We went right for the most important stuff. The how come I can't fat burn and lose the weight I want to, specifically fat weight, and how you can do it. We're going to share 2 dietary mistakes that you're making that sabotage your thyroid. But here's the deal. When you make those mistakes and you sabotage your thyroid, you won't realize why it's happening. And when you sabotage your thyroid, you sabotage your metabolism. And because of what's happening to you then, you will dig in deeper and make these mistakes on a bigger scale. Curious? Want to avoid that? I want you to too. So tune in. I'm Deborah Atkinson. You're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top struggles and concerns, but most of all, hope to inspire you that you don't have to make those mistakes and continue to do it and have the concerns that you've got right now, that you can age the way you want to. I share what to eat, how to move, and how to change your mindset so that you can have the energy and the vitality that you want, need, and deserve in this second and better half. You're not going to miss this. However, if you happen to be a health pro or fitness coach, stay tuned because this episode is sponsored by the Advanced Flipping 50 Fitness Specialist. So if you're working with midlife women or you are one and you're struggling to get results for them or for you and feeling, honestly, when that happens to you, like a little bit of imposter syndrome, like, are you kidding? I can't get results for myself. How am I going to get them for somebody else? You are not alone, my friend, but here's the deal. We are not immune to the effects of hormones simply because we're in fitness. All right, so the specialist course is worth 2.5 ACE continuing education credits, 1.8 NASM credits, and a number that I cannot remember for AFA credit. And listen, if that's not your certification I just listed, almost every certification agency will allow you to petition and you will get credit for it as well. But that's even just part of it. What's the really important part is that you can dial up the way that you collect revenue. Make your comeback in 2021 because there's never been more demand, more need to help women in midlife get the right exercise, not the wrong exercise that makes them more tired, more prone to gaining fat, but the science-based and backed and proven to work on over 200,000 women in the last 7 years. I'm going to put the link in the show notes. It's flipping50.com/specialist. Do you have to be certified in order to take the course and get that specialist designation? No. Do you have to have a degree? No. I highly recommend if you're really digging in and want to make this a career, it's a part of what you do, but it may already be a fit with your qualifications. All right, we have to dive in right now because I cannot wait for you to get the juicy details inside. Buckle your seatbelt, everybody. So if you want to talk about fat, you want to talk about fat burning, I got just the guy for you. And yes, I said guy, so we let them in the door sometimes over here. He is not 50. He is not in menopause. And I think you might be relieved to hear that. But he is a good one. And he knows his stuff. And I can't wait to have a discussion with him and let you listen over the fence. My guest today is Stu Schaefer. He's a 20-year award-winning weight loss coach. He specializes in helping people put their body into the thermogenic state so they burn fat constantly and can lose weight like they did in their 20s, right? So now you're tuned in. I know I've got your attention. Stu struggled with anorexia in his teens, and when he overcame his eating disorder, he realized he wanted to help people create their perfect body in a healthy, sustainable way. Since then, Stu's helped thousands of people transform their body and empower themselves to create massive success in their life. Stu, how are you?
Well, I am so excited to be here. I just got to tell you.
Well, we are so excited to have you. And I love talking to you all the time because I never know what's going to come out of your mouth, really. It's keeping me on my toes. But I love every bit of this. And I'm so sorry that it happened to you. So you have that story to tell. But I also think, oh my gosh, I mean, what kind of compassion and empathy does that give you as a
Mhm.
male to have struggled with that? And we hear about that so much less than I think among females. So just talk into that for a minute.
Okay, you're talking about the anorexia.
I am. Yep.
Yeah. So, thank you. I'm really grateful to be on your show, given that I'm a man and am not 50 or menopausal, because that's a good point, Deb. And I want to lead in with this and then talk about my story. Is that I always tell people one of the keys to succeeding is knowing who to listen to. And I always tell people there's two things that you need to know if a person is the right person to listen to. Number one is they've been where you've been, and number two is they have what you want. And so a lot of people, like on Instagram or Facebook or these things, especially now, are in there. These like 20-year-old men and 20-year-old women who have these ripped bodies, who could probably eat pizza every day because they're 20 years old. And they're
Hey,
saying, hey, let me make you a meal plan. I'll help you look good. And what they don't realize is they don't realize anything because they're still 20 and they've never actually had challenges. So they may have a body that you like, but have they been where you want to be? And that's why I love you so much, Deb, is you are not only learning and having been in this industry for 30 years, but you're living it. So you can bet that whatever advice you're giving, like me, you've kind of tested it on yourself, like as the guinea pig. And that's really special. But I was anorexic. So I have a very unique past in that I hated my body. I had a terrible self-image, low self-esteem, horrible confidence, no confidence actually. And this all happened as a result of when I was 13, I got arrested for breaking into a house with some friends. And I was a good kid. So it wasn't like, it was like one of those make or break moments in your life. Most people don't usually encounter this at age 13. And when you're age 13 and your hormones are all over the place and anything is the end of the world already, and then something like this happens, it just knocked me off my feet. And I lost the trust of my parents. I lost the trust of the community. I lost everyone who I thought was my friend. I figured out really quick they weren't really my friends. And as a way of self-punishment, I spiraled into this anorexic behavior. And I battled it for maybe 2 years. And it was terrible. I'd look in the mirror, think I was fat. I didn't feel comfortable in clothing. I didn't like how I felt. I didn't like how I looked. I hated who I was. And I literally was crying almost every night as I was going to sleep. And I remember one night, it was probably 11 o'clock p.m. to put things in perspective. At this time, I was usually going to bed around 8:30 because I was so depressed. And this night I was up at 11 and I was praying, and I was saying, God, why is this happening to me? You know, I'm a good person. I'm not what everyone thinks I am, and I don't know what to do. And all of a sudden I got angry and I said, I'm going to, I don't know, something took over me. And I said, I'm going to show everyone on the outside who I really am on the inside, because they're not giving me a fair chance here. And I know I'm not what everyone's saying that I am. And so I got perfect 4.0 GPA when I hit high school, and I was graduated valedictorian, full ride scholarship, really did well. But the thing that was unhealthy was went from anorexia, and then I discovered this program, and I did this program and followed it. And that was the only thing that got me out of anorexia, Deb, is that I said, I'm going to follow this. And for 30 days, I had anxiety because I was eating all day. And every time I ate, I had anxiety. I thought I was going to get fat. And after 30 days, I said, well, I'm not fat. So it broke. It was like an experiential thing that broke the false belief. But right then
Wow.
and there, I said, I know what I want to do. I want to help people because now I know what it's like. And I remember when I was anorexic, and I was like, I got to lose weight. And I would spend hours on, this was like the early days of the internet. I'd spend hours on the internet and magazines and books and TV, and there's all this information. And I remember I would get so overwhelmed. I would start crying because there's so much information, and I just felt like it was impossible. And I thought I could understand if someone comes to me feeling the same way, or they hate their body, or they're lacking self-confidence because they're not comfortable in their own skin. And that was 1999 when I made that change. But it was still a year or two that I battled the obsessive exercise after that. And it was a slow process, but because I wanted to be healthy, it was, I don't know, Deb, I'll just tell somebody, a guardian angel or something, helped me get out of this, because I didn't see any doctors. I didn't see any counselors. My parents didn't know about it. I was just very lucky.
Curious, did you tell your parents after?
I wrote about it in my book. So I think they read it. So they may have found out that way, but we never actually sat down and had a conversation about it.
Got it. Okay. So talk to me about that for you, just because for listeners, I want to draw a parallel and address, how isolated you probably were.
Yeah.
Not just, having it, because I think anyone who's got an eating disorder, and let's say it's anorexia, let's say it's bulimia, it's compulsive overeating, or it's exercise, I think
Yeah.
all very related. It's isolating. You don't go talking to people about this. And, in fact, other people who have it, if it's actually a competition almost. So it's not
Yeah.
not a good relationship. But for you, we can probably all say, I know friends in my class, girlfriends who also struggled with it if I did. But what about for you? Were there other guys? Did you have anybody to talk to, or parallels to draw?
Well, this is an interesting question that I've never actually been asked before. I will tell you that the competition is real. Anyone who's had this knows about it. It's like, how long can you go without eating, kind of a thing. How much pain can you endure, kind of a thing. It's a really weird mentality. And while I didn't tell anyone, nobody in high school, when I was in high school, nobody knew about it, or middle school, because it was 8th to 9th grade. Nobody knew about it, but I had a lot of friends, and I really didn't even have many friends, to be honest with you, but I was in classes with a lot of wrestlers who had to make weight. So when they would be talking about, I'm cutting weight, that actually fueled my disorder. Now, I just want to mention something, because this is all part of how I kind of figured out this thermogenic thing that you mentioned in the intro, and something called repressed metabolic syndrome. Because while a lot of people aren't anorexic, or maybe don't have an eating disorder, or maybe aren't obsessive with exercise, we've talked, and a lot of people aren't eating enough and they exercise too much. And that was what I was doing. I would literally come home from school, Deborah, and I would run for 2 hours straight. I was running 12 miles or 12 to 15 miles every single day after school. And I just shudder to think of the damage that I did to my body, because at that age, that is when you're literally, your body is so hungry for nutrients because it's growing.
So after school, 12 miles, that's a lot, period. what had you eaten, if anything, up to that point in the
Maybe
day?
some days nothing, some days an apple,
Yeah.
virtually nothing. Some days I'd get home and my mom like would give me something to eat and she like was like, okay, well, you need to eat this, and I would like, push it around and stuff. This is what kind of a common thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I ran because I was I literally ran. This was the thought that was going on in my head. The running had nothing to do with me being skinny. The running, because I had I tried smoking I was just you have to imagine, it was like do or die. It was like everything I was doing was taking me down the wrong path towards prison, a life of crime, smoking, drugs, etc. I never did drugs, but I was probably going to be going down that path. And so my thought was, if I'm running, I can't get in trouble, period. That's what my thought was. If I'm running, I can't get in trouble. I cannot commit a crime. I can't smoke while I'm running. It was like the only thing that I understood at age 13 that was a healthy thing, even though it was unhealthy. But it was better than maybe it would have been. And thank God that I somehow did that, because I thought, okay, I'm going to heal my lungs from the smoking that I did. There was no cell phones. So I said, my friends won't be able to get in touch with me, so I can't get in trouble. And if they ask where were you, I would say I was running. And I just, for some reason, thought that was normal.
Okay. I want to not skim over this, but I think that was really an important foundational piece for all of our audience to hear, because I this just points to there's no way that you can't have empathy for somebody in a struggle with weight, with fat, with this love-hate relationship with food and or with exercise that we've got based on your background. And this makes you so very different,
Mm-hmm.
because I think many women have had personal trainers in the past, whether it's males or females. So I don't mean to stereotype, but I do think that it's easy to feel like your trainer could have no way of knowing what it's like for me. This has been probably a young athlete,
Oh,
student
yeah.
athlete, and always been in shape and
Hmm.
don't understand me. And you clearly have got a background that provides you with the empathy, and compassion that you need. But we have to get back
Hmm.
to vocabulary here.
Okay.
Now, all right. So you dropped two big bombs, and one in conversation and one in the bio. And I want to make sure for listeners we explain these. So the thermogenic state you mentioned, you
Mm-hmm.
help people, women, put their bodies in the thermogenic state. What is that? Let's tell everybody.
Well, that's a great question. Essentially, what that means is there's a special state you can get your body into without pills. It's not pills. It's not anything crazy. And what it does is it literally causes the body to start burning fat all the time. And honestly, I say like a fat burning furnace. And my clients will even tell me, Stu, all of a sudden I feel kind of hot lately. And I say that's a good thing, because that means your body's heating up. It literally goes, your body heats up from the inside out, your metabolism speeds up, and you start burning fat. And it's absolutely incredible.
Well, okay. I'll take two.
Okay, great.
All right. Do you take PayPal? No. Okay. So the other thing, so I don't think anybody's going to argue with that. We're going to let you talk more on that. But the other thing that you said, and then it was kind of like nonchalant, but I caught it, repressed metabolic syndrome. Let's
Yes.
talk about that.
Yeah. So this is really
Repressed, not
interesting.
depressed.
Yeah,
Sorry.
repressed metabolic syndrome. And I figured this out in 2009. I was about 8 years, 9 years into training, and I had this client come to me, a woman. Her name was Ashley, and I was in my office eating at the time, and there's a knock on my door, and I looked up, and she was still sweating, still red in the face and breathing hard because she had just finished working out. And she was saying she's tried everything. She needed to lose 50 pounds. She'd be so grateful if she could lose 30, and she's tried everything and nothing worked. Well, I hate to admit it, but I'm going to be honest here. I was a little a little arrogant. I was going to say cocky, but I was a little arrogant early on in my career. And I thought to myself, no way, no problem. I can fix this. And, as a trainer, you've been there, I've been there. They really don't teach very good stuff in the certifications. They essentially teach you that you need to have a calorie deficit to lose weight. And I found out through Ashley that this isn't true. And essentially what happened was she had tried Atkins. She had tried fasting.
Can I pause you just for a minute?
Yeah.
That was a mic drop, everybody. Did you hear that? Okay, because y'all think you need to be counting calories. And I'd love you to look back on the last 30 to 40 years and answer me, how well is that working for you?
I'll clarify that in just a sec too. So this will be great. So she had tried Atkins. She had tried fasting, the zone diet, the Mediterranean, the South Beach, the grapefruit diet, drinking 200 ounces of water a day, calorie counting, macro counting. She tried it all. And I was convinced, okay, she's just really not a good eater and she's not working out enough. So my initial thing was let's reduce calories and make sure she's working out. Well, 5 weeks later, she hadn't lost a single pound. Now she's sitting across from me, devastated, bawling. I'm like ready to just quit the profession. I'm thinking, oh, this was like a knock to my ego. And I thought, oh my God, like I don't know what's going on here. I felt like a total loser. And I said, Ashley, I looked at her, I said, listen, I'm going to work with you for free and we are going to figure this out. I promise. And I went on a 2-week deep dive research quest. And about 10 days into it, I figured out what was going on. It's called repressed metabolic syndrome. And in essence, here's what happens. When a person diets too much, or does too many diets, or does it for too long, or too extreme, or they exercise too much, what they do is they cause the body, and I'm going to simplify this, the body shuts down. It says, uh-oh, I'm under attack. I need to preserve everything I have. And so what it does is it becomes catabolic. And what that means is it starts burning muscle for energy, and it starts storing fat because it thinks that it's going to need to live off that for a long time. Okay, well, I went back to Ashley and I said, Ashley, I think I know what's going on here. I said, the only way to get out of this is to get your body into the thermogenic state. And that involves eating more and working out less. And so I told Ashley, we got to eat more and work out less. And she goes, are you crazy? She's like, no way. I'm going to gain weight. I haven't even been able to lose 1 pound. You're telling me I need to do more eating, less exercising? No. I took an hour for me to convince her. And I finally said, let's try it for a week. If you gain a pound, we'll stop right away. Now, keep in mind, she was eating less than 1,200 calories a day. She was working out between 60 and 90 minutes a day. I reduced it to 30 to 45 minutes a day, and we almost doubled her food intake. She went from eating twice a day to eating 5 smaller meals a day, and the first week she dropped 2 pounds. Now, I was ecstatic. She was not excited because in the past, she would lose 3 to 5 pounds, then gain it back. And then over the course of a year, she'd gain about 10 pounds. And she'd done this for the last 6 years and was up 50 pounds. So she wasn't excited. I was. But the next week, another 2 pounds. And then the next week, another and another and another. And at the end of 12 weeks, she had dropped 37 pounds of fat, and her energy was higher than it's ever been. And her cravings had vanished. And she was eating more than she had ever eaten, working out less than she'd ever worked out. And she looked at me and said, I don't understand this. Why? And I said, Ashley, it's because we put your body in the thermogenic state. We had to give it the food so it can operate the way it's designed to operate. And once we did that, it was able to burn fat. And she goes, this is fantastic. Because I love what I'm eating. I get to eat all day long. This is fantastic. I'm not hungry and my cravings are gone. And the best part about this, Deb, is it's so easy. You can keep it up and sustain your results because it's not extreme and it's very realistic. So I went to I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. So I went to all my other clients who are already doing well. And I said, we're going to do this. And they all started losing weight almost twice as fast. And their cravings vanished. And they were like, this is fantastic. I get to eat all day. I'm not hungry anymore. Oh my God, this is awesome, Stu. And so that was 2009. And ever since then, I've been refining and perfecting this thermogenic system. And it works on everyone. And what I found out is for women, it balances and normalizes your hormones.
So good. That was mic drop, drum roll, all in one. So good. Everybody wants and needs that, right? And I love the fact that, we're doing totally the opposite. Although you've got to trust in the system and do it for a little while. But love the success stories. This is so awesome.
Can I add something really quick?
Please.
Earlier in the show, I said, who do you listen to? And I said, the only person that you should listen to is the person who has what you want, the results that you want, and has been where you want. But there's one caveat to that. Or they have case studies of people who got what you want and were where you are. Because I work with all women. And so typically a woman would be like, well, Stu, you're a man. How do you know? Well, for some reason, I don't know if it's because I'm more on the sensitive side because of the anorexia and what I went through, but I've always worked well with women. And so my clientele, my whole life, have been women over 40 and mostly women over 50. And so I understand autoimmune, thyroid issues, hormone imbalances, insulin resistance, because these are just common things with women over 40. And so that's an important thing that I just want to point out.
Yeah, so good. And I love too that, we're both kind of barking up the same tree when we talk about you need scientific studies. You need them to be, of a certain size and scope, and you need them to have been done on you, women in menopause. We aren't mice or men or young women.
Right. Yeah. Well, most studies are like 2 weeks long with 30 people. And here's the secret that no one will tell you is it takes 2 weeks for your body to react. So in the 2 weeks are useless. You need at least 100 days is what I like to see. 100 days.
Awesome. Okay. So let's go back to the flip side. So talking a lot about food and that's a major piece of the pie for sure. But let's talk about the flip side and too much exercise, because of course the dogma has always been exercise more and eat less, and that's the ticket for that caloric deficit. So by the way, if you just tuned in at the wrong minute just now, don't stop there with that quote. That's not what we're actually saying. How is it, Stu, that too much exercise prevents weight loss?
This is interesting. And I learned this again. I was working with a client and she was 48. Okay. And her name was Colleen, actually. And she was married and she was working out and she was not like super overweight, but she wanted to lose maybe 15 to 20 pounds. And I said, great. And she was a very type A personality. I find that in Colorado where I am, we're a very fit state. You used to live here, so a lot of people do a lot of activity out here. So most people, when they are doing something, they're already kind of doing some healthy things. They're not like just sitting around and they're exposed to exercise. My point is, so she was type A, and I said, okay, great. So we started working out with weights. We were doing weights about 3 times a week. We did the eating program, just like I mentioned what I learned with Ashley. We did the Thermogenic program, and she was losing weight perfectly. She lost 3 pounds the first week, 2 pounds the second week, 1.5 the third week, another 2. I remember this because we went over it. And then the fourth week, she lost 2, and then she stopped. And I said, okay, Colleen, what happened here? Something has changed. And she goes, no, nothing's changed. I said, well, I know you're working out with me, so I know the weight training workouts are fine. I look at your nutrition log. So unless you're lying to me, everything looks fine. I go, what are you doing for cardio? She's like, oh man, yeah, I've been doing the spin classes and the boot camps. And I said, whoa. I said, what were you doing before? And she goes, oh, I was walking. I go, well, Colleen, you need to stop doing these things. I go, what's your heart rate at? And she goes like 170, 180. I mean, I'm burning calories like crazy. And I said, no. I said, you are doing it way too hard and way too long. She was up to about an hour 15. I said, you need to go back to walking in your neighborhood. Now there's a lot of hills in her neighborhood. So it wasn't like just a little brisk or a little namby-pamby walk. It was a brisk walk up and down hills. And she goes, really? That just seems like I'm not doing much. I go, no, that's what I told you to do. You got to do it. So she goes back and starts walking again. And sure enough, the next week she drops 2 pounds, and she's like, she said, why? Well, here's what happens. Women especially, you're susceptible to this. When you exercise too hard or too long, or too hard and too long, you overstress your body. You overstress your adrenals, you trigger your cortisol. And once you trigger that cortisol, oh my goodness, it is brutal because it pauses all the other hormone production. It pauses your thyroid hormone production, your estrogen, progesterone, even your testosterone. Yes, women have testosterone. And it pauses your insulin. And so your blood sugar isn't as balanced. And it can wreak havoc. Not only that, but the cortisol forces your body to go catabolic, burn muscle, store fat. So it does the opposite of what you want. And this is what happened with my client. And so again, with my clients now, they all just walk because for 2 reasons. One, they won't overstress the body. And 2, all of them, including me, can wrap their heads around that. And if and they don't dread it. They can tell themselves, all I have to do is walk and I'll lose weight. And they love it. So that's all they do. And so that's why you got to be careful on how much you exercise. And that's what the over exercising can do.
Yeah, so love that. And I gotta say to listeners, so first of all, I want to call out this one. So this is also a mic drop. Namby-pamby. Who says that? Who says that? I love you so much. Okay. I haven't heard that for a long time and I needed a good laugh today. That was a good one. But to listeners, this is so funny. So we will do this. And I've watched this, and Stu, I bet you have too, that we self-sabotage. And the funny thing is we self-sabotage both when it's not going well, like we throw in the towel, this isn't working, but we also self-sabotage when it's going well. And this example is so very good. Like it'll be working. You'll be doing it. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, if that's working, then I'm going to turn it up and I'm going to do even more.
Yep.
And you're like, whoa, we're like, wait a minute. You and I are like, you were in your sweet spot. What happened?
I know.
So,
it's like, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, listeners, so hopefully we're catching you before you do it, right? So if you're in there, your sweet spot, don't rock the boat.
Let me put it
if it's not broken.
Let me put it to you this way. Okay. This is a analogy. Okay. When a doctor gives you medication, if you don't take enough, it's not going to work. If you take too much, it will kill you. You take the prescribed amount that's prescribed for you. And that's really what you should look at. The coaches like Deborah and I is we're looking at you. We're looking at where you're starting from, your age, your gender, your body, if you have any autoimmune issues, gut issues, things like that. And then we're taking and prescribing a prescription for you. And so if you don't do enough, it won't get as good of results. But if you do too much, it will also be counteractive because it's an exact prescription.
Love it. Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. Thank you so much. All right, let's kind of come back. So full circle, we're going back and forth. But I want to talk again about nutrition mistakes that prevent people from losing weight. We've hinted at a lot. We've actually talked about some very specific ones. But what are the biggest, or maybe better, the most common mistakes that prevent people from losing weight?
Yeah. Okay. So, it's a big question, and I'm going to go into it, and I'm going to reference a couple studies that I've seen impacting women's thyroid. So this is going to be juicy. Number one, there's 4 things I would change right off the bat. But number one is, and you said this to me too on my show, you got to get enough protein. Number 2 is you got to get enough carbohydrates. Number 3 is you got to be able to know when to eat certain foods during the day and when not to. And number 4 is you got to understand how to combine the right foods at each meal to have, which will, if you do that, it'll literally force your body to start burning fat. Now, I call it my food quadrant. And what it is there's quadrant. There's what you eat, how much you eat, when to eat certain foods, when not to, and how to combine foods correctly. 99% of the diets only focus on the first two, what to eat and how much to eat. Now, if that's all
Mm.
you focus on, you only have two options. Either restrict foods or restrict calories. That's it. As soon as you open up to the other two, which are way more important, by the way, you have so much flexibility in what you can eat and how much you can eat. And clients, when I work with clients, they're losing 30, 40 pounds in 3 months. They're eating things that other diets restrict. They say they're bad. They're eating lots of carbohydrates. They're eating good foods that they like. They're splurging. They're having alcohol. I had a client who was like, I can't believe it, Stu. I've had a date night every week with my husband. We go out and, I've still been able to lose weight, and I'm at a weight lower than I've been in years. And this is amazing. And so this is the key. So I would say to everyone, always eat breakfast. Make sure you have a protein at each meal. Understand when to have certain foods during the day and when not to, especially around dinner. That tends to be when your body's the most sensitive and when you would end up storing the most fat. And understand how to combine the right foods together to cause this thermogenic effect that literally forces your body to burn fat. Now, I want to reference 2 studies because these are important. One shows since the 80s, there's multiple studies since the 80s that show if you have a diet that's too low in carbohydrates for too long, it drops your T3 levels and in essence wrecks your thyroid. Similarly, more recently, studies have come out that show if your diet is too high in fat for too long, it shuts down your T4 production and your thyroid in essence gets wrecked. So some of the diets today are high fat, low carb. And so
Yeah.
they're really, really damaging women's thyroids. They're hitting both the T3 and the T4. The only saving grace there, Deb, is you can reverse it, and you can reverse it really quickly if you start eating correctly.
I love that. And yet, I want to point out to listeners what's happening there, right? Because you're eating in a way that's damaging your thyroid. And because you're damaging your thyroid, you're thinking, oh, I have a thyroid problem. So my metabolism isn't working. So I'm going to diet more and do more of the same to try to lose the weight. And you're just vicious cycle like a mouse on a treadmill.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Well, now we know the answer. So good. Okay. Drum roll, please. The question of the day, and I could edit this if you don't give me the right one, but it is cardio or weight training better and why?
Okay, that's a great question. So I just want to back up and put things in perspective. With any good program, so if someone's out there listening, Deb, and they are looking for a coach and they don't use you or they don't use me, fine.
What?
But I'm just saying, if you're going to look for a coach and you're looking at different programs, any good program is going to have the following 4 components in it. One is mindset. That's the most important. Second is nutrition, second most important. Third most important is weight training. And fourth most important is cardio. If they leave out any of those components, it's an incomplete program, and you're either not going to get as good of results or you're not going to be able to keep the results. Now, the reason the weight training is slightly more important than the cardio is if you do weight training correctly, you still get your heart rate into a cardio zone. So you get both benefits in one workout. But number 2 is a lot of women, especially, and because most guys, they want to weight train, they want the muscles. But most women think if they weight train, they're going to get bulky muscles, which isn't true. So a lot of women will tend to cut calories and do cardio. Well, then they lose weight. And this has happened. Actually, I just got a client, just signed up with me. She's in her late 40s, and she said this verbatim. She said, well, I lost 20 pounds. But I don't look like I lost 20 pounds. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, I look kind of flabby. I said, what'd you do to lose the weight? Keto, fasting, and cardio. So I know what's going on here. You have repressed metabolic syndrome, number 1. And when you don't do weight training, when you lose weight, you look soft and flabby. If you lose weight by weight training, you look tight and toned and firm. which is what women really want. In essence, what this woman has done who signed up with me, and what most women end up doing without knowing it, is they lose weight. But a lot of that weight is muscle. They don't just lose body fat. And that's why when you go thermogenic, it's so awesome, because your body literally burns body fat, not muscle. And that's a huge difference. Weight loss is not all equal. And if you lose muscle, you're, again, wrecking your body. I'll give you an example. This has happened to many clients who I've worked with, is their weight will stay the same. Let's just take a round number, 5 years. They weigh 130 pounds, and they'll do a diet and they'll lose 10 pounds, but 5 pounds will be muscle. So they've lost 5 pounds of fat, 5 pounds of muscle. Then they eat regular and they gain the 10 pounds back, only they don't gain the muscle back. They maybe gain 2 pounds of muscle back. Okay, so now they're down 3 pounds of muscle, but they're at the same body weight, which means they're still 130, but their body fat has gone up and their muscle has gone down. And they'll keep repeating this cycle. So over 5 years, their body weight stays the same, 130 pounds, but their body fat increases and their muscle decreases, and it slows their metabolism down, makes it harder and harder to lose weight, and makes them look softer and softer and more flabby at the same weight. And this is why weight training is so important. And quite honestly, this is why nutrition is so important. And even more so, why going thermogenic is so important, because then the weight you lose is all body fat, and you keep your body in the fat burning state forever and ever and ever, meaning you can lose the weight and keep it off for good. And that's the difference.
Thank you, God. Amen. Okay. And so good. Yes. All the analogies and the illustrations really, really help. And that is the reason why I am going to tell you. And as we were working and Stu was talking, I'm typing in, okay, I've got to put this resource in. During the pandemic, it became very apparent that every household, I think from here till we're not here anymore, should have a smart scale. You should be getting on that and tracking not your weight, not just your weight, your body composition. You've got to know, what effect are your daily habits having on your muscle and your fat ratio. That's what really matters.
That's a good point. And now, I don't have a smart scale. And sometimes people ask me, well, how accurate are those scales? And I say, well, they're not as accurate as, say, like a caliper or a bod pod or things like that. But there is something, if you're low tech, that you can do. And this is what I absolutely have all my clients do, no matter what, period. Actually, there's two things. First is take pictures, because then you can compare pictures and you can see. And second is take measurements, okay? Specifically around your waist, but also you could do it around your thighs, your arms, etc. And the reason you would want to do that is to say, well, geez, I didn't lose any weight this week. I haven't lost any weight this month. That's weird. I'm not saying this would happen, but I'm just saying this is an example. I didn't lose any weight this month. Oh, but my waist went down 3 inches. Okay, well, that's a good sign. That means you're replacing fat with muscle. Okay, so the weight's staying the same, but you're burning off body fat and replacing it with muscle, and your measurements are all going to go down, and you're going to look tight and toned and firm and sexy, just like you want to.
So good. Love it. All right. I just had to make sure you were done. Jeez. Like pregnant pause there. I was like, he's bringing it. Okay. Love it. Okay, Stu, while I have you here, because I think I could probably talk to you all day, but I've got things to do here, buddy. While I've got you here, is there a question I should have asked you that I didn't?
Yes, there is. Okay. And this question is, what do I do if I have an autoimmune disorder or a gut issue? Okay, this is
Mhm.
huge because so many women they have autoimmune or Hashimoto's that they don't know they have, or a thyroid issue or a gut issue like Candida or SIBO or leaky gut, and that's preventing them from losing weight because their body is out of whack. Okay, or they've been told they're insulin resistance, which is a bunch of BS. Insulin resistance just means you're eating slightly off, and you can make some minor corrections, and it'll go completely away. Or if someone has diabetes, can they do this? Well, yes. The answer is yes to all those. And I just want to share something really quick. I've been working with about 5 women over 50 who have different autoimmune disorders. Two of them have Hashimoto's. One has one that I don't remember the name. I feel so embarrassed that I don't. One has Candida and one has SIBO. Okay, so 2 gut issues, 2 Hashimoto's issue, and a couple gut issues. Well, there's the beautiful part is there are certain overlaps. So if you're doing that, whether you're diagnosed or not, there are certain protocols that you can follow that work for all of those things, all encompassing. There's certain high risk foods, there's certain low risk foods, there's ways to eat and exercise that would virtually be no risk. And I got to tell you, this is crazy. The woman who has Hashimoto's, she tried 9 years to lose weight, couldn't lose a pound. She's down 15 pounds. And what we found by doing this is broccoli was the culprit. She added broccoli in for a week and she gained 2 pounds. She took it back out. She lost the 2 pounds and kept losing. So she loved broccoli, but found out she can't have it. The second person who has Hashimoto's found out tomatoes are the culprit. The 2 with the gut issues, all we had to do was I give them a magic supplement that's really easy to take, and it destroys all the bad stuff in your gut. So that's easy, and they're already succeeding. And then the one with the third autoimmune, same thing. She found out tomatoes and hummus of all things were at cause. So what you want to do is you want to get with someone who understands the body, who knows how foods affect these types of things, because once you get it under control, the weight just comes off. It's like you're in full control of your body, and it's like a lifesaver. It's like hallelujah,
Yes. So good. I love those 2 examples. And obviously, there's a lot of listeners who probably would be like, I can identify with that. And yet the huge surprise, right? The foods that you've grown up thinking this is healthy.
Yeah.
This is really healthy. And what woman in midlife hasn't heard, well, cruciferous vegetables will help me eliminate toxins and estrogen. You're actually pointed toward them.
Right.
So what works for one won't work for all.
That's right. Yep.
All right. Stu, tell everyone, I'm going to put a special link because you've got something special for them.
Yes.
Tell what it is.
Great. So for all your listeners today, because I just love you to pieces, Deb, and I just want to help as any way I can, I'm going to give your listeners 3 of my best things for free. The first is my fat loss masterclass, which dives in deep about the thermogenic state and eating and exercise. The second is my fat loss blueprint. And the third is my thermogenic quiz, so you can kind of see where you're at. So all 3, if you're listening right now, I'm going to give that to you for free. And Deb was telling me she's got this amazing, cool secret link for you. I think it's flipping50.com/Stu.
It is. And that's STU.
STU. Yeah, Stu. STU. The
Not like
easiest
the
way to
soup.
spell it. flipping50.com/Stu. And I'm happy to give your listeners, Deb, free access to those tools.
Fantastic. That is so generous. And listeners, you can also find Stu on Instagram. If you're there, he's at Stu Schaefer. I'll put both the links in the show notes. And you're going to want to go and grab those. Absolutely. And I was trying to think, what's a memorable place to put that for you? But here's what I'm going to do, because I don't want to make the spelling too bad, right? Too hard. So we are going to make that a challenge. So it's going to be at flipping50.com/thermogenic.
Oh, cool. Cool.
So you got that one?
Thermogenic.
All right, listeners, now it's up to you. So I know you're going to have questions. I know you're going to have questions from this. So number 1, going to the link that we're sharing will be a great next step if you want to follow up on those questions. Number two, go to the show notes at flipping50.com/thermogenic and place your comments or your questions there. I love to hear from you. Number one, I love to hear, was this valuable? Was this a good use of my 45 minutes? So definitely got to catch up with my friend Stu. Love talking to him, but also want to know that you voluntarily spent 45 minutes with us and you got a lot of takeaways. So let us know. And again, you'll be in the show notes, flipping50.com/thermogenic. And what are you waiting for? Let's start flipping 50 today.